This budget hearing conducted by the Committee on Appropriations and Adjudication now reconvenes discussions for the fiscal year 2018 executive budget request. This morning, we are dealing with the Department of Extramarital Affairs to discuss their budget proposal. I want to preface this budget hearing with the uncertainty the government of Guam faces with regards to potential negative impacts to general fund revenue collections, economic activity as a result of numerous factors such as CH-2B visa denials, potential federal tax reforms, and cuts that may erode Guam's revenue base, including the cap on the Section 30 revenues. With these issues at the top of our mind, the Guam Legislature has a daunting task of ensuring that we provide funding for the public services the people of Guam want and need. This hearing will focus on the operations of the Department of Extramarital Affairs to only include the President's Office, research, publication, and training, Chamorro Village, Guam Museum, and the Hagåtña Restoration Redevelopment Authority. The other statutorily created agencies of PBS, Public Library System, and CAHA will not be covered by this hearing. Just a brief overview. The executive budget request submitted by the Governor through the Bureau of Budget Management and Research provides for a $4.3 million or a $1.2 million increase for the Department of Extramarital Affairs from FY17 authorized levels of $31.1 million. This is a 38.9% increase as compared to FY 2017 authorized levels. I would like to thank the DCA officials that have come in this morning, and inasmuch as you've already been sworn in, you're welcome to introduce yourselves, and Mr. President, you can begin your presentation.
Senor Speaker, Senator Mary Torres, the Vice Speaker, Therese Terlai, and all committee members. Sejus masini ponayang tempo na pabin presente izon mami budget i Departamento ng Kahaw Vinahan Samoro, zani i division siya, and malagod zo pabi introduce dokwi our division managers. Thank you for allowing us to present our budget for DCA and its division. And beside me, I'd like to introduce our administrative officers and division managers. Please introduce yourself. Gual si Janin Sabran, President in Department of Extramarital Affairs. Got it. Push the button down.
Half a day. I'm Marilyn Regis, Administrative Officer for Department of Extramarital Affairs.
Sherry Barcinas, Administrative Officer for CAHA, but with the transition of DCA Administrative Officer, I'm here representing for FY 2018 budget.
Buenos and half a day. I'm Joseph Santos. I'm a planner from the Hagåtña Restoration and Redevelopment Authority.
Buenas and half a day. Jeff Nicholas, the Chamorro Village Manager.
You may begin.
Okay. Mr. Speaker, and committee members, Senator Luis Muñoz, thank you. We are requesting to approve the 2018 budget as presented to your office. And if there's any other questions, we're here to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
When the budget request was sent down, it still had Department of Chamorro Affairs. The Chamorro Village. It's my understanding, though we haven't seen the executive order, that Chamorro Affairs has been transferred to Gita?
Yes.
The Chamorro Village has been transferred to Gita?
Yes, through the executive order as signed by Governor Cabo on February 14, 2017. However, I was told that the issue, and I've known it since even last year when we were going through the memorandum of understanding, is that the personnel, the classified personnel at Chamorro Village is something that they need to resolve through DOA. And as of now, we're just waiting words on what procedure they need to take in satisfying the classified position at Department of at Chamorro Village.
Though the Vice Speaker has successfully gotten a piece of legislation through requiring that executive orders be published and presented to the Legislature, we've not received that executive order yet. And would you please provide a copy of that executive order to us?
Yes, I will. If I could give you our copy. Also, we have it here.
And you say that in this budget that you're still trying to resolve the personnel issue?
Yes, at this point, until we hear or the matter is resolved by the front office and BBMR and DOA and GITA, we're still moving forward in including our classified position at Chamorro Village as part of our budget.
And what are the details of the transfer? What does the transfer entail?
Well, in my understanding, they would instruct us on how to transfer the Department of, the classified positions or we're just actually looking in finding ways to resolve that issue, and it's at the legal department right now.
So who do they respond to? Do they respond to you or
The classified personnel's response to DCA president at this time.
and what responsibilities does GITA
Well, GITA
have
has
at the village, and
Yeah.
how is it that they have authorization, or whatever it's called?
Well, at this time, they've been supporting us with their business acumen, creating some plans in how to enhance and make the Chamorro Village better, to reduce expenses, and most important is the management acumen that they said they will provide to Chamorro Village, and it comes through Department of Chamorro Affairs, and then I disseminate it to our staff. So at this time, everything comes through our office, and their liaison is Mark Mendiola, and he comes and talks to me and say, hey, I would like to suggest this plan in creating better management for Chamorro Village. And from there, I disseminate the information to our Chamorro Village manager.
So for 2018, which doesn't start for another 4 months, should the appropriation go to DCA or should the appropriation go to GITA for the classified employees?
Well, while we're waiting for the transition, I believe that the appropriation should go to DCA at this time.
I also saw in your request a $75,000 $75,000 for a GITA MOU. Why would you be paying GITA any money?
I'll yield to
Actually,
Joe Santos, HRR.
Mr. Chair, that's under the Haggadah Restoration and Redevelopment Authority. The HRA and GITA has a memorandum of understanding where GITA will provide their support in terms of completing the Haggadah Master Plan up to $1 million. And we've been executing that, and we do have a contract with that. The agreement between GITA and HRA is that we will pay back, if funds become available, we will pay back to each of our budget year the amount that's owed to GITA, or what GITA had lent the Haggadah Restoration and Redevelopment Authority.
Can you provide this committee with copies of all those documents?
Yes, sir.
I mean, the MOU between you and GITA, the MOU between you and whoever it is that has the contract,
Okay.
Everything that's involved in this
I'll
arrangement with them, including this loan and the repayment plan.
Yes.
All right?
Yes, sir.
I understand that your oversight chair has requested that MOU and she still hasn't received it.
Actually, they do have a copy of the MOU electronically. It's in there. It's actually the signed MOU that's there to include the matrix contract. Now we're going to an addendum of the MOU, and but other than that, the information, you should have the information there with what's provided to your office. Yeah, it was in a disc. Everything that HRA has in terms of documentation and was transferred to the chair. I had requested that if there's any information they may need or clarification, please feel free to contact me. I'll be available to clarify.
HRA in the 17 budget was authorized $136,590. In the FY18, you're asking for $1.2 million. That's a 778% increase. Can we get details on this
Yes, sir. The
increase?
The
And what this-
Haggadah Restoration really just 2017, or it's actually 16, started getting an office space. Other than that, I transferred from the Department of Land Management to the Haggadah Restoration and Redevelopment Authority. I'm the only staff that's there. There's really no other equipment, no other resourcing that's there. So one of the things that our board since 2012 has been requesting is for personnel in order to execute the mission that the Haggadah Restoration has and accomplish its goals and objectives. So the positions that the board wanted was for a chief planner, administrative officer, program coordinator, word processing secretary, and an engineer. Those are the basic positions that the board felt that Board of Commissioners felt was needed in order to accomplish that mission. Aside from that, that's the bulk of in terms of the salary and benefit side of the house. On the other side of the other half of that request for HRA is for studies. Right now, the Army Corps of Engineer, we have an MOU between the government of Guam and the Army Corps of Engineer has an agreement. Part of that agreement is to conduct or channelize the Haggadah River. But in order to do that, they need to update their studies within that respective area. Now,
How much is that?
Pardon?
How much is that contract?
For our share, it's $425,000. But that's back in 2016, and of course, when that may change. But the initial agreement between the Army Corps of Engineer and Guam is that to update the study, we'll provide $425,000. So that's one aspect of the study in terms of the Hagåtña River. And again, I emphasize that in order for the city of Hagåtña to develop, it needs to channelize that river. And the study will determine what the course of action would be in order to do that. The remaining portion, the 1.5 million, comes from the Army Corps of Engineers in terms of them funding that portion of the study, or to update the study. The second aspect that we're requesting in terms of it, because I think it's $624,000 for studies in itself. A part of that is to look at the Paseo Disasana Plan Development District and come up with a study that we can use it to make sure we implement it. The legislature passed the law dealing with the Paseo Disasana, but in each of the agencies, they're not funded to provide any type of development plan associated with the district that was created. So HRA would like funding for that in order to complete a study, so we'll know what economic outcomes that we can push forward in terms of developing, so we can provide development opportunities within the Paseo area.
The enabling legislation that created HRRA,
Yes. Public Law 25-110
yes,
or 24-110.
was probably the most expansive and powerful agency ever created in government. And the initial appointees to the committee, to HRRA, were personages whose experience was befitting that position of that powerful commission, including, if memory serves me right, the ability to tax and raise their own funds.
You're absolutely correct, Mr. Chair. However, the Department of Revenue and Taxation came back and said that because of an amendment to the Educational Facilities Fund, where it transferred all real estate property taxes into that Educational Facilities Fund, Department of Revenue and Taxation came back and said, through their Assistant Attorney General, came back and said, you're no longer authorized those funds unless the legislature amends the law. And last year, Senator Nicholas had introduced a bill to try to rectify the problem. And so at this current state, the Hagåtña Restoration and Redevelopment Authority does not receive any funding. And from my understanding, the last staff that it had was back in 2004, and subsequent to after that, the board did not have enough members to form a quorum, and didn't move forward on the thing until a quorum was formed, and then that's when they started conducting or addressing the master plan. And so in terms of the fund request that you're saying is that in order for us to move forward, the legislature needs to amend the act that removed or took the money from HORA and put it in the Educational Facilities Fund. And I think that the estimated budget during those years was like between 1.8 to 2 million some dollars a year that was collected, and we don't see any of that funding. One of the things that we were trying to do was engage with the U.S. Department of Agriculture. They had offered us $100 million in loan at a good percentage rate, but in order for us to do that, we need to show a payback. And because we can't pay back we don't have that money to pay the loan, we can't get any of those, that funding that's available or funding opportunities that are available to us. To include grants, include grants itself. I've been engaging with a lot of federal agencies. They're saying, we can give you this, you can get the grant, but where's your matching to that? And so again, we're at this juncture where we don't have the fund source that's available because of a law that was passed and kind of took the money away. So that's where we're at.
So the Hagåtña taxes are in TEF.
Yes.
You're asking for 150,000 per study. Can any of that be done by the University of Guam and utilize their expertise?
Yes, sir, that can be used with the University of Guam. There's different opportunities, but we have to comply with the procurement regulation. One of the things that we're doing is, with those development studies, is working with GIDA to find different ways to fund these type of studies or opportunities to fund these type of studies. The University of Guam, yes, has the resources where they can provide their expertise on the studies, but again, we have to comply with procurement policies.
Were the procurement policies and statutes complied with in the awarding of the contract to Matrix?
Yes, sir, they were. As a matter of fact, what we did was, because there was only one, when we did the announcement for the bid, and we got when the time came and we only got one response, the board made a decision to extend it for an additional 90 days and tasked me to go out to the different architects, engineers, and ask them if they're going to put any packet together. I met with Mr. Felix Beneventi and a lot of different professional individuals in the engineering and the contracting area. And the bottom line is that when the 90-day expired on that extension, we never got anything else except for Matrix. And we went through the process of making sure that we dotted our I's and our T's in terms of the selection of Matrix as the contractor for.
If memory serves me right, the description of that contract was quite obtuse. It was very, 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 very vague, if memory serves me right.
Actually, Mr. Chair, we actually used and corrected it or made it a little bit more open. And it was the original. We had originally contracted out with a group, a consortium here on Guam, but because they didn't have no board members, the contract expired, and so we went forward with reissuing the contract once we signed the MOU between GIDA and HRA. And so when you're saying it's obtuse, we did use the previous bid proposal and just specified it a little bit more to make it more unique to Hagåtña and the building of a city. So I'm not sure what you're saying in terms of it being obtuse.
I thought I remembered that there was some complaints about the fact that when one read the announcement, it wasn't clear exactly what they were bidding for. And that may have been the reason why many people did not bid, because the way that it was described, it didn't describe a study that was going to draw up the plans for a redevelopment of Hagåtña.
Actually, it was to update the Hagåtña master plan, and I can provide you a copy of the announcement and the bid announcement and the scope of work dealing with the bid. Again, it's not as different as the previous bid of the former contract, which was RIM Architect. And so when somebody's saying that it was different or there was something, can they tell me what was different? Because we did specify the development of the Hagåtña master plan and the rebuilding of a city to include a sustainability plan where fund source will be identified as part of each of the proposals provided in the Hagåtña master plan. So I'm trying to figure out what was the.
Okay.
I'm not sure where you're getting that.
Provide it to me, and then I'll have you come in and
Okay. I'll
we'll
provide
discuss it.
Okay.
To date, how much have you spent on this Matrix contract?
So far, we spent 600. I think 688,000. Of that, 200,000 belongs to HRA under the hot bond, and we took that 200,000 and paid Matrix as part of our thing. So the part that GIDA provided to us is about 488,000.
of which you're going to have to start paying back.
Of which the HRA board, in terms of good faith, would like to pay back or show at least good faith in paying back. If the legislature chooses not to fund it, then that's up to the legislature and that. But the board wants to show that good faith that it is paying back what the board says that we owe GITA.
Where is HRA currently housed?
We're currently housed at the Terlahi building, first floor. We have a lease. HRA has a lease with the Terlahi management.
And how much space do you have in there? Can HRA fit in there? There seem.
We have I think it's 2,000 square footage of space. Part of that, the bulk of that is conference room.
20,000 maybe, but not 2.
Pardon?
I said 20,000, but not 2.
No, I think it's. How much? 1,008 square feet of space.
How much does DCA have in that on that floor?
DCA is under a different contract. So is CAHA. We co-shared the first floor, and so there's common areas that we all agreed to pay for, and we so we're all paying in terms of our fair share the first floor of the contract or the building. So each agency has a contract with Terlahi when we went out to bid.
Is there a need for all that equipment?
Like,
I noticed in your budget you're asking for $12,000 for a copier, $19,000 for briefings and workshops, $10,000 for supplies and materials. Aren't you guys all there? Can't we utilize DCA?
Sir, for my, yes, we can. And we've been using the Department of Chamorro Affairs, but Hagatna Restoration in itself is an authority and needs people in order to accomplish that end state. Well, from the get-go, HRA did not have any equipment to start out. The equipment that I have actually was loaned from the Department of Land Management, and if you go to the office, the bulk of that equipment that's in there comes from my the storage container of my family's storage container, and so I'm using it at HRA in order to move forward on it. But to date, I'm the only employee there. There's no other things that are there. DCA and even CAHA tries to help us as much as possible, but they themselves have limited personnel, and to accomplish the task of HRA requires a little bit more steady personnel that is actually under the jurisdiction of HRA.
The office space that you have, you say is 1,800 square feet, and you say there's only one employee, you?
Yes, sir.
That's a fairly substantial space for one person.
We've been pushing again, Mr. Chair, for personnel, and we've been looking at using the Department of Labor in terms of their resourcing, getting the University of Guam in terms of internship, coming down there. But unless we get personnel, that's it. I'm the one doing the minutes. I'm the one doing everything that an office is supposed to do with its personnel. I'm doing it, and it's becoming a little bit too. I've been down there since 2014. I transferred in 2015, and there's been no change to the outlook, although we've made the requests, and my board has said we need this personnel in order to accomplish the mission. We want to grow a city. We want to set up an economic stimulus of Hagatna area, but you can't do that when you have no personnel in the organization, except for me.
In last year's budget, was HRRA under DCA?
Yes. Under the Reorg Advisory 6, CAHA, the library, HRA, PBS are all under the Department of Chamorro Affairs.
But the budget request,
Pardon?
advisory 6,
Yeah, there's a Reorg Advisory 6 that the governor had signed, placing the Guam PBS, the public library, HRA, CAHA under its administrative control. If you want a copy, there's a copy right here. I can provide it to you.
someone,
Mr. Chair, we're not asking for much. We're asking if you give us a lot. I mean, if you give us these
they're
things over
asking
here.
for 1.2.
I know, but we're not asking for a lot when you look at it in the big picture. Because if we get these people in, especially the program coordinator for, there are federal grants that are available, and it's exponential in terms of the development opportunities that Guam can have, especially with the redevelopment of the city of Agana. Right? Since after the war, it's been stymied. You can't develop in here because of the National Flood Insurance Program. And so coming on board, I'm saying these are things that we need to have in order for us to accomplish that. It's exponential in terms of moving forward for the HRA, but first we need help.
Can you provide, you spent 680,000 without,
Because that comes from GIDA. Then it's a loan really that we're looking at in terms of getting that money from GIDA. And so we're saying we need something that moves us forward. We have no fund source.
if GIDA is going to be lending money, it could have been lending money to do the personnel that you wanted, and or even the governor's office provide you special assistance and detail the same way that you would detail down from land management.
You know, Mr. Chair, I'm not going to. We've discussed that with GIDA. GIDA made it clear they're not hiring personnel. They're there to do a contract to help us in terms of our economic development. As to the governor's office, I can't answer for them. I'm just saying that HRA does not have, it's not an organization if it doesn't have its resource to operate. And so this is what we're doing. We're asking for those resources. We've been asking for this since 2015. We've been submitting it up, saying we need this request, and so here we are at this juncture, and hopefully you can support that endeavor.
In your request, there's a $30,000 for a hybrid transportation system.
Oh, that's what is it? GSA said to put. It's a vehicle. I can put the word vehicle on there, but that's the wording that they gave me to put on there. So that's the wording I use.
Can you provide the committee with a copy of that tax advisory from Reverend Tax?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And Mr. President, in the Guam Museum request, there's an increase of 1.1 million. With the current state of the museum, are you confident that you will collect the $2.1 million for the operations?
Mr. Speaker, we're very confident that when with the amount of budget that we're asking for this for 2018 in regards to the Guam Museum, that once the permanent exhibit is completed and open in sometime late October, early November, we believe that we have an updated projections that would show that we will be able to sustain through the 2018 budget for that fiscal year through the admissions of the Japanese tourists coming in, and we would have almost like 10% projection that would carry us through the fiscal year 2018.
There's a travel request of $24,664. Is that broken down, and for what?
Yes, sir. That's under Hagana Restoration and Redevelopment Authority. Oh, I'm sorry. That's under Hagana Restoration and Redevelopment Authority, and on the budget requests, we had provided different areas in which that the HRA would like to attend. Carlos Madrid, who used to work for the University of Guam, had offered the Hagana Restoration to show especially in the Philippines, how the Spanish design and everything, architect, and the different options that are available for the board to review and look at in terms of applying it to, especially to the Spanish portion of impact on Guam. Aside from that, there's the American Planning Association conference that's held annually. We can meet with the SEDS administrator out in Seattle, Washington, and part of that is taking some of the projects that we have available, and I don't know if you were provided a list of those projects, but it's taking the comprehensive economic development strategy of Guam, specifically in the Hagana area, and meeting with the individuals there to fund for those particular projects.
What exactly did the $680,000 to Matrix provide you? That you have to fly to the Philippines to learn how to build buildings?
Well,
One
again,
would
it's to
hope
do
that the Matrix group had that expertise within their group, so that when they planned the Spanish section, that they had some idea, or are they just Phoenix and Santa Monica?
Sir, I'm not sure where you're going to in terms of that, but what I'm saying is that once the contract, once we submit the master plan to the governor and the legislature, that ends the contract with Matrix, and we're not. I mean, we can turn around and say, okay, give us those expertise in those respective areas, and brief the board, but do they have the expertise in how the redevelopment, especially the ties between the Philippines in terms of its architectural design and Guam, or getting with SEDS? They're not a forever contractor. They're going to complete the master plan, provide the information that we contract them out to, and then that's it. We move forward. This is moving forward from there.
One would have thought that's where we would have started. The criticism was that it was a Phoenix-based or Scottsdale-based company. If you wanted a plan that was going to have Spanish and Philippine influence, why didn't we get a planner that was going to make a Spanish city, or as opposed to something that looks more like Santa Monica and San Diego?
Okay. Sir, again, we did go out for a contract. We extended that. We did go out for bid. We extended that bid beyond the thing and bending over backwards to try to get our local talent to get involved in the master plan. Now, we have to follow procurement regs, and if there's only one proposal that was turned in, then we have to go with that proposal. We can't go with all these things. So if somebody else, some local talent is saying that they weren't involved in it, we were trying to get them involved from the get-go.
It wasn't so much that there wasn't any local talent that was available. One would have thought that the procurement would have required that the person was responsive and had the capability of being able to design a city that had a flavor of Spanish and Manila or whatever it was going to be. I know that the previous CAHA director was criticized because she went to the Philippines and got an architect to do the huts along the beach. But at least she had the good sense to go to get a design that wasn't going to be Phoenix and San Diego.
I'm not sure why you're saying Phoenix and San Diego. We're taking the island of Guam, especially Hagåtña, and developing it to meet its whatever its characteristic is. So sure where you're getting Phoenix and where you're getting Arizona or San Diego. I can't tell you that if you're saying that the proposals that we have looks like Phoenix and Arizona, then I need to know that that's what you guys think in terms of the vision that we have.
Sure looks like it, or Santa Monica, but it doesn't look like a Spanish.
You know, the design that was taken from there that we gave Matrix to comply with was the plan that was approved by the Guam Preservation Trust on a plan that they contracted out with the architects of Cristobal and Laguardia, or Laguardia and Cristobal. And so we took that design plan that Cristobal and Laguardia had produced and approved by the Guam Preservation Trust and adopted it as part of the Hagåtña Restoration and Redevelopment Authority's plan and looking at that design also. So when you say it's Santa Monica or San Diego, I'm not sure what you're alluding to or why you're saying that it's there. We're taking designs
I lived
that
in
are...
California for 15 years.
Pardon?
I said I lived in California for 15 years. And the way that these things look, it's the boardwalk, the San Antonio River Walk. I mean, it just is. And I'm just saying, if you wanted and you need travel now to go to the Philippines after it's already been designed, there's an aerial view that flies us through this whole thing. It's finished. Or at least I've been sent that, and I had to sit through it at another presentation at the chamber. So from what I've seen, it's almost completed, and now you want to travel to see how it's done. There's a $26,000 request for a financial audit. Isn't that covered in the general Gov Guam one, or do you guys have to pay your share or something?
I'll yield to Sherry, our administrative officer, who prepared this budget.
The 26,000 financial audit that is under the President's office is for non-appropriated funds or non-appropriated accounts.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Mr. Speaker. Thank you all for your presentation. And by the way, thank you for this memo from today. I think it's very helpful in summarizing some of the budget. As to the Guam Museum, could you explain whether there was a feasibility study done for the museum, and does your statement to the speaker this morning regarding the plans for FY 2018, is that consistent with the feasibility study?
Well, we have a contractor, Galidi Group, that gives us information based on a number of people that come into the museum. the type of, whether they're tourists, Chamorro, and can I have my file? Oh, there, I'm sorry. And as part of our, the report to the Board of Trustees, that they have to provide monthly on some of the admissions and events and all the fees that they've gotten, revenues that they've acquired during that month. And the last report that they did was on May 9th through the to the Board of Trustees, and they reported from October through March 2017. We've been averaging almost 2,000 people per month, and the breakdown, it has a breakdown, and I'll be glad to provide this to you. And so based on these informations to current, they've done some projections also from April through the end of the fiscal year, and then from October through September 2018. Once the permanent exhibit is open, that there are additional added tourists that will be coming in through their promotions and advertising, that they would anticipate the number of tourists increasing to support the operational expenses on the fiscal year.
So is this a different study, I guess, than what was done in the feasibility study? Do they match each other or not?
On the original, yes, it is different because the permanent exhibit has been delayed and supposed to open December 2016. Now it's delayed, and I think it's in good course now that it will open late October, early November. And with that, the operators have redid their projections so that it will, based on the monthly tourists that come in every month, event fees, and adding that together, they felt very comfortable on their new study projection for next year.
Okay, but the fees that are coming in, do those go into the non-appropriated fund?
Yes, all those are referred to as non-appropriated revenues.
All right, and so that's not the source of paying for the Guam Museum part of this budget request?
No, that's separate.
All right. Well, when I reviewed this budget from DCA, it looked like the DCA by itself budget had very few changes. I mean, a couple of personnel, and but it was really the HRA portion that was really the big, makes the whole DCA budget looks like the $1 million increase. But yeah, I too, thank you for that memo, because I had never seen it. I didn't know that they reorged, because I searched the statutes and could not find any authority for HRA to be associated with DCA. All right, but so if we could just review the DCA portion very quickly. I mean, it's like there's the increase in the President's Office division, or the President's Office, is really for more translation fees, and this is for contracts. So it increased from 38,000 to 61,000. That's for contractual services for translation.
Sherry,
And then in the Language and Culture division, there's an additional position that's been added. Apparently this division did not have any personnel in it last year. And so you're proposing to recruit a program coordinator one in that division for language and culture. And could you just tell us what is this position going to do, and why was this not funded last year, or why, how are we meeting our mandate for DCA with this small staff?
Well, as you know, I just got on board last August 2016. So previous to that, yes, it was never funded, but I wanted to move forward in getting the cultura area, the language and culture, moving to serve its mandate. And the department would like to revive this division, which has never been funded in many years, actually. And as part of the department's main mission, the position would allow for the development and growth in the continued perpetuation, preservation, and promotion of the Chamorro language and culture. So through coordinate programs with other and creating workshops and activities, and partnering with government agencies, this would give us the impetus to move forward and make the Cultura division very strong again, as it was designed. So we need a personnel there. Speaking, someone who could also speak the language very well.
In the division of for publications, I noticed that we're really only funding salaries, and so there's no funding for publication. Could you just explain that? I guess.
Well, as you know, that division, we have a collections of books like the Chamorro English Dictionary and English Chamorro Dictionary, and e-Hadlet programs, many other series of books. We like to also move that forward and really enhance it by creating perhaps digital formats so that we can generate revenue as well as perpetuating the Chamorro language and culture through that division. That's also so important because how else would they know about our culture unless we have these textbooks in this research and publication area?
But you haven't requested funding for publication.
No. Again, we're like the wheel. You know, we have to stick with the ceiling that we're given. I would also like to ask for the archival section to be funded, but the way our government is right now with CAS, you know, we hope to get that done. We're doing duplicate works. We're trying to help out in many ways. So we're working. Our team is really working hard to keep this going. So.
And okay, can you? Sorry, back to the museum. So the entire appropriation for the museum in 2017. There was $80,000 for salaries, benefits, office space, rental. Sorry, but 1.7 million went to contractual, and in FY18 the same amount will go to contractual. Well, $13,000 variance, but the contract ends in 2018. I think you told me earlier. Could you just explain then what will happen with this money in 2018? Or do you intend to renew the contract, or how is that going to work?
Well, we believe that the operator, Galaide Group, have gone and beyond to really make our presentation and exhibit and to manage the museum through their expertise. And so far, we've been very pleased and happy. Like everything else, the only way that we probably would not renew their contract is basically if there's a shortage of or funds is not available to handle that, and if projections are not being met to do the to continue the operations.
Okay. So if you're intending to continue the contract, but we're increasing salaries on the Guam Museum side by 50,000.
Well, for continuity purposes as well, should we not continue to move forward with the contract of the operator, is that we need to have a curator and collections management that understands the process of museum artifacts. We also need an administrator for continuity purposes, and should we are not able to move forward in renewing the contract. So those are basically the two areas that we need, and even the contractor, the operator, suggested that for continuity purposes that we should have these people as well. And that's why we're requesting that we need to have that curator and administrator.
All right, thank you. And as to HRRA, the bulk of the HRA amount, well, there's an increase in 5 employees, right? So the request goes up by about $200,000 for the 5 extra employees, including an engineer. And then the bulk of this increase really goes to contractual for feasibility study. So I've passed out this handout that HRRA gave me earlier that lists the 3 feasibility studies detailing the $150,000 for each study. As you explained to the speaker earlier, one of these is for the Hagatna River Channeling and Watershed Hydrologic Feasibility Study. And you're estimating $150,000, but that's really of a $400,000 cost for this study. 300's coming from the other fund, what, TAF?
Fund. It was a TAF fund that gave the Hagani Restoration and Redevelopment Authority $300,000.
Oh, so this has been appropriated to HRRA already, the 300, but it's not enough. You still need 150 just to do the feasibility study.
Yes, upon review with the Army Corps of Engineering in Honolulu, they came back with a revised cost as to what we needed to do with the money, or what Guam's share would be in terms of the estimated cost. And the cost that came out was 450. I think 430,000 or 450,000 was the overall cost. And so we had 300,000. All we're requesting for is 150,000.
This feasibility study it's just to do the study. The project itself is estimated to cost about, is it $35 million?
Yes, ma'am.
And how will that be funded? Is that something we're going to have to come up with the money, or you have this planned?
There was originally back in 1976, there was an original cost breakdown, and Congress had authorized $25 million. That authorization is still there since 1976. And so what we want to do is we want to update. The original study only dealt with the river from Minondo Bridge out to the bay. It didn't deal with the watershed, the Haganya watershed. And one of the things you need to look at is you need to look at the entire picture of the flood, what could flood within the Haganya area. And so the cost to take that study and move it forward became a little greater because it involved the wetland area and the areas going back to Haganya Springs and the entire Haganya watershed. And so in terms of funding for that, that's still a cost that Guam has to come up with, and that's one of the things we're addressing with our contractor, to come up with a cost of the cost sharing should Guam have to proceed with its share of the total estimated 35 million.
Who's in charge of that project? Your contractor?
You're talking about the
The
providing us with
channeling and
the
watershed?
The proponent for the government of Guam is the Department of Public Works. Public Works is the agency that's there. The governor had tasked the Department of Public Works to address that issue. And so when we deal with the Army Corps of Engineer, part of the Department of Public Works has to be a part of that discussion when we deal with them in terms of channeling the river.
Okay, thank you. And, okay, so then that's one project for the 150,000. The second one is Hagatna Riverwalk Esplanade Development District Feasibility Study, 150,000. But on one of the project sheets that you gave me, it looks like that's also supposed to cost 200,000.
Again, the cost that we're looking at is to do the study. If it's at 200,000, we're basing it upon a study that was done, but we looked at it and saying if we can lump a lot of the different studies together under one contract, that should suffice in terms of bringing the cost down. And again, as what Masgahilu Sablan mentioned, is there's a cap on what we can use the money for in terms of what's provided. So we have to take it and say this is the biggest bang for our bucks and provide where we'll get where the money can be placed at.
I want to ask about the third one, but before I forget. So are these feasibility studies already included in the contract that you have with your contractor, or is this something you're going to go out for each one? Oh, you want to combine them into one RFP?
Yes, go out with one RFP in terms of a scope and having them do the studies accordingly. Now, these are different development district areas.
Yes.
When we talk about the Hagatna Mountain Esplanade, we want to take advantage of the river and do similar to a river walk within that area. And
Is that feasible before this channeling and watershed and study with the Army Corps is done?
if you take the study and you say that this is what we can do with the respective areas in terms of economic development, the Army Corps only pays to channelize it. They don't do anything to make it nice or meet the requirement of any economic development. That's where we come into the picture. And so we take that study and say, this is how we want it to be, and this is how the design would be, and we make sure that the Army Corps understands that that's the design we're going to use for the to develop or channelize the river. And so, can we do that? Yes, we can. And we just have to make sure that when the Army Corps does its study, that it's incorporate that study for the Esplanade is actually included in the overall study of the feasibility for the channeling the Hagatna River.
All right, and so who's the lead for the Esplanade project?
That's us.
HRA.
HRA.
And how much do you expect the cost of the project to be?
What we want to incorporate that is to incorporate in that $35 million as a part of the development of the area, so we can have a plan of action of how it would be developed, like the study. We turn around and take that and say, we want this to be built in this fashion.
From the money that we're getting from Congress for the hydrologic study?
For the contract to build or channelize the river.
Okay. And then the last one that you have here is for a reestablishment and marketing of Hagatna annual events prior to World War II. $150,000 for the feasibility. Oh no, I'm sorry, that's not the last one. There are four. I keep saying three, but there are four. Yeah, okay. And the fourth one, this is the one I wanted to ask you. Paseo de Susana Planned Development District Feasibility Study, $150,000. And according to your project list, it's estimated to cost $41 million.
When we look at that, we're looking at that's the cost that we estimated based upon the development that's being projected within that particular area we would like to see. An example is the Paseo Stadium. The Paseo Stadium can only accommodate 2,500 individuals. We want to make that a little bit bigger than what it is. That should be a showcase for Guam in terms of having other types of activities that occur there aside from baseball. And so we would have to rebuild the stadium. We want to build a Fort San Rafael, which is a threshold event for the Chamorro people on Guam, in terms of having that there at the Paseo area at the point of Paseo Point area. Developing the boat basin. Right now, Port Authority has, in their master plan, has 342 slips. Well, we want to make sure that we build 242 slips within that respective areas and have it developed. The Chamorro Village is a prime example. We need parking within Agutnia, so we want to build a three-story parking structure within that area that meshes in, and so those are development.
And how do you
opportunities.
intend to fund that? Where does that funding come from? 41 million estimated.
Again, that's one of the things that our contractor will come up with, of what are the different courses of action to fund or sustain the respective studies or projects that we're looking at. And you know, Senator, there's opportunities, grant opportunities, literally that they're asking us to apply to, and I've been coordinating with them. But to take a federal grant and do it with one individual is like, you know, you're asking me to fail, or you're asking HRA to fail just with the one individual. And so this is why I'm saying it's exponential. The federal government has monies available to build cities, to build infrastructure, but yet we're not taking advantage of that, and we would like to, or we would like that opportunity to do it.
Well, of course, it looks beautiful and sounds great, but for me, I'm just trying to figure out how this works with when we fund a feasibility study. If we don't have the money to go forward with the big projects, how long can those feasibility studies, how long are they useful to us without, you know, planning the money behind it first for the projects? And also, yeah, of course, we're also looking, these are huge amounts of money to me, and I'm keep thinking about the schools and the request that we've had, you know, earlier this month from the schools, and so I'm just trying to weigh this all out and see which one is priority, which one, you know, maybe if we have to prioritize government-wide, what would we do?
Well, you know, Senator, you look at that, and it's an economic. If you look at it, most of it is dealing with economic feasibility and economic stimulus. And so when you develop the economy, and that's one way to develop the economy, then you actually have more revenues going into wherever you need to have it go to. If somebody builds here, that increases the real estate property taxes. And so here, that goes back into the coffers of the government of Guam, and goes back, again, it's a cycle. It goes back into the quality of life institutions that need to be taken care of. And part of that, of course, is education.
All right. HRA has the ability to, the authority for eminent domain, very unique in the government. I mean, restricted for legislature normally, but it was delegated to HRA. And do you have any plans on using that during FY 2018?
The board has made it clear. Hagåtña, or the people of Guam, have already gone through a lot of eminent domain. There's nothing that we're going to take from any of the private sector. We want to partner with them in terms of the development of Hagåtña. The board thinks we have everything that we need in order to move forward. Just need the opportunity to move forward. And this is why we're here asking your support.
All right, and my final question is for Mr. Sablon. The new Chamorro Language Commission is one of the provisions says that the commission is hereby authorized to use, and the Department of Education, University of Guam, and Department of Chamorro Affairs are hereby directed to make available their facilities. The Department of Education, University of Guam, and Department of Chamorro Affairs shall also make available personnel and logistical assistance as the commission may require in carrying out its functions. Are you able to meet this mandate?
At this time, I only have one staff. Two, actually, just came on board last month, administrative officer. But we have one secretary and one administrative officer in that department. And the Comisión Finazomoro and Finatnagui Historia Zanili Lata, that's the commission. We have no space in Department of Tomorrow Affairs to accommodate them. But we've been assisting them since the beginning. We facilitated in putting the meetings together and for them to elect their officers. And we've been providing board meetings at the Guam Museum at this time. And I did offer a space at Chamorro Village, one of those Iseng Chamorro that's vacant, to use temporarily until they're or they can be permanentized there if they like it. But at this point, that's the only area that we can assist them. Of course,
What about with the staff that you're adding on, or that you're requesting in the 2018 budget?
Yes, and that's one of the reasons why we wanted a person in the cultura, language and culture, someone, and they would be assisting them if they need that also. So adding that staff would certainly assist them, and that's why we're here, to work together, not to be different and separate.
All right, thank you. Jesus Mas.
Buenas, Hafidi. I'd just like to thank the Department of Chamorro Affairs for all the hard work they do in preserving our culture and working hard to also making sure that our outreach is further beyond our island through the many partnerships you've had, also the publications that you've helped produce. So thank you very much for your hard work. I do have a question, and this is for HRRA. You listed $645,724 for contractual services for one person, and this is copier, advertising, printing, website maintenance, membership, and vehicle maintenance. Does HRRA have a vehicle, private vehicle?
No, ma'am, and that 600,000 is geared towards it's a feasibility study portion.
Oh, okay.
The other part is to establish the office. Right now, as I mentioned earlier, there's no equipment in the office except for my family's personal equipment.
Right, it says contractual.
You're right.
So I'm thinking you don't have the equipment, but you're contracting 645 out.
For the study itself.
Okay, because it says the next item is 17,600, and it says feasibility studies and projects. That 500, okay. So where did this come from?
This is overall.
Oh, okay. Okay, sorry. So with the feasibility studies and projects, can you explain because you have 4, each feasibility study, how will that implement on your seeds projects? And you have up to $762 million, I believe, of your seeds projects that you are anticipating to go out and get a bond, right?
It's a SEDS project. It's called the Comprehensive Economic Development
Right.
Strategy that Guam,
Seed
or rather
SEDS.
all jurisdictions must submit in order to qualify for construction or those type of grants. And so in the study that was done, the third priority is the Hagåtña revitalization. And so for us, what we've done is we've taken a lot of the projects and submitted to the governor for his inclusion in the SEDS plan that's submitted to the U.S. Department of Commerce Economic Development Administration. And so in moving forward with that, those are for construction in the future, or estimated costs of what it would cost.
But these are the projects you're looking to do.
Pardon?
Are these the projects you're looking to do?
Yeah, a lot of those projects are already either approved by the
Okay.
Land Use Commission, approved by the government of Guam, but they're not funded.
Right.
And so in order for us to try to tap onto federal grants, we need to
Do the feasibility study.
do the feasibility study, which will validate that this
All
is
of these
the
projects
actual-
here, so all 4 feasibility studies will validate these projects here?
Well, they'll validate the bulk of the projects. If
Okay.
you look at some of the areas you look at, we're looking at quality of life, developing parks, developing recreational areas, especially when we start building the city. You want to make sure that the quality of life for the city dwellers or the people that are going to live within Agatna is there. You don't want to just build a city and have no green space or no recreational opportunities for the families or kids.
Yeah,
or
I see
whatever.
what you mean by quality of life when you spend 1.5 million on a Great Seal of Guam, that a project that you already completed.
Which one?
A lot of these things, what is your definition of quality of life?
Having a green space.
Because we have a construction of a parking lot that's going to cost, hold on. Let's just go down the line.
Are you looking at the SEDS CIP project?
Yes, you have the reconstruction of Government House, Spanish Palace, 5.3 mil. Construction of multi-story government office building, 15 mil. Construction of a 3-story government office, 10 mil. Another 3-story government, 15. I'm just going through the big items here. $900,000 for a wireless free system. I don't know if you're defining that as quality of life. $290 million for tourist, commercial, and retail facilities on reclaimed land area. Channelize the Hagåtña River, $35 million. $200 million, this is interesting, to build a Tier 3 sewage treatment plant, relocation from, I'm thinking, Paseo to Piri. $1.5 million, development of a Guam Sill Park. Is that the one that is right out here with the
Yes, ma'am. That's there. Part of the park that's not completed.
construction of 2 car parks, $24 million. And $41 million for reconstruction of a first-tier sports multi-use facility, Paseo. $14 million to reconstruct a multi-story Guam library. 15, I'm sorry. That's just the big items, and they equal up to 762. And when you define quality of life, that's interesting that you mention it, because in your statute, one of the declarations of the policies, reason for necessity of decent housing and genuine employment opportunities. Perhaps I see some genuine employment opportunities for the people that built a 1.5 million Guam Sill, but I don't see anything in reference to decent housing. Perhaps it's in, and I'm trying to connect the dots here, perhaps it's in your private development projects in Hagåtña, where you have Vestry Corporation, a 24 condominium project, Keystone Development, 10-unit condominium project, MVP JJ, 48-unit condominium project. But I'm thinking housing, not condominiums, I'm thinking homes, because we should do something that will help the people. But I'm wondering, and you have some of these that are completed. Tutuan Hill Group, office space and restaurant, Crust and Burger King. It says completed, so I'm thinking this is a renovation or a build. East Hagåtña renovation, Foodies, that's completed. I don't understand when you say quality of life.
Okay, Senator, in order, right now, Hagåtña it's designated as a city and doesn't have the appropriate infrastructure needed in order to develop that city. When we're talking about quality of life, we're talking about building things that will
benefit who?
enhance the city area. Now,
Then that's not quality of life. Who will that benefit?
Pardon?
You said quality of life. So who will this, in your interpretation of quality of life, who will it benefit?
The people that move into Hagåtña. And by the way, we did meet with Gura, HUD, and one of the things they made it clear to us is channelize the city, and then we can give you money to develop what you need to
I
do
understand that.
in terms of low income and moderate housing.
NFIP, right? But you don't have anything projected for that. Not in this project plan.
We can't project for it until we first get the
No, you
river
can plan.
channelized, and this is why those studies
It's
are...
not even listed in your plan.
Pardon?
It's not even listed in your plan.
Actually, it is.
We're not
The information
here.
that I provided you doesn't have it,
Oh,
but
so
we
it's-
have looked at government land, especially within the Anigua area, to see we can develop residential areas within that. How can we get with HUD and develop, or GURA, and develop residential areas within the city of Agutya without impacting or without trying to impact the National Flood Insurance Program? And because that's a cost in addition to what you want to build. And then from there, you have to have insurance. And so the bottom line is that before we can develop a lot of where you talk about the city dwellings or the people or housing, we need to first make sure the infrastructure is in place. And that infrastructure will then turn around and provide, like you said, the quality of life. A river walk. What do you think a river walk will do? Right now, most people, when they walk, if they walk on the road, the chance of them getting run over is greater than at someplace else. And so one of the things we're looking at is how to develop trails and areas within the city of Agutya for people to walk and enjoy the view of what Guam has to give.
Okay, I understand that. I understand you need an NFIP to look for, to improve the quality of life for the people. But 1.5 million for the Great Silo Guam, $900,000 for internet, parking lots, parking structures, everything related to businesses. There's no mention of homes in here. That doesn't mean that you cannot include it in your plan, but now you're telling me that you do have a plan for it, it's just not given to us yet.
Yes, you're correct. Senator, we want to address, like I said, the infrastructure. Once we address the infrastructure and have what we need there, we can in tandem move forward to the other things that we need to develop. And we've looked at the entire public areas within the Hagåtña area, and then what is it that we can provide. But not only the entire Hagåtña area, we look at Tumuning, Mongontotu Maiti, Sinanya, Ganya Heights, Asen, and Pili.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Sanchez. The $200 million for the relocation, sewage treatment plant, are you talking about from Aganya, Paseo?
You can't develop,
Aganya
yes, you're absolutely right. We need to move it someplace. You can't develop the city and have a sewage treatment plant right in its front yard.
And I see that you listed the CCU as one of the proponents that you are working with. And I speak with Mr. Duenas a lot, and they keep on saying that they're not going to do it for another 25 years because EPA is not holding them accountable
Pardon?
for that. The sewage treatment plant, the one in the Ganyabo Basin, you're projecting this to be done, but what is CCU and GWA as the proponents saying?
CCU gave us the amount of $200 million. First of all, the sewage treatment plant has to go up to a Tier 3 development. They will never get to Tier 3 by it being out there. In order to develop the city, you need to move that sewage treatment plant to an area that can accommodate it or away from the development of the actual city of Agutya.
Yeah.
You ask the legislature asks as a policy, the board, to come up with ideas and recommendations and solutions. These are ideas and recommendations and solutions in order to get us, the city of Agutya, to be developed. We're not asking for much. We're asking for your help. We're projecting and planning for it. Now, a lot of the things may happen. They may not happen. They may not be funded. They may be funded. But the bottom line is we're projecting forward to make sure that the city of Agutya is developed and it becomes a showcase for the people of Guam and for the Marianas and Micronesia. And so this is why you see these things being projected in a comprehensive economic development strategy. We're not turning around and saying, okay, the people of Guam are going to fund this. We're saying these are things that we could do in order to develop the city of Agutya.
The people of Guam will fund this if you're going to go out and get a bond.
And those are different financing opportunities that may be available.
$762 million worth. So don't say the people of Guam will not be funding this. That's all I have. Thank you, Mr.
thank you.
Sanchez.
Mrs. Mossy. You know, for the past 15 years, as I've been involved with DCA in some way or another, I've come to appreciate the heart that all of you here in the audience have put into the push to raise cultural awareness and to preserve the language. And I know that we've come to a point in our history where language preservation is very dire. And when the reorganization happened of the DCA that incorporated the Hagana Redevelopment Authority, the PBS radio station, the library system, and the Chamorro Village, the focus there was that there will be one agency directing the cultural awareness programs and all other programs associated with it, including the books and publications and anything. Correct, Mr. Saban? But I wanted to ask you, because as I was glancing over the management discussion and analysis that was prepared in connection with your financial audit, your independent financial audit, one of the things that the objective was that this reorganization was with the intention of streamlining the administrative support services, the budget and finance, the maintenance, human resources, grants management, and fixed assets, and also having one director look at all the policy and have it consistent. But then as we're discussing today the recent executive order transferring Chamorro Affairs over to GIDA, the concerns about HRRA not really having the momentum and the resources that it needs to be effective, I just wanted to ask you, you know, what are some of the challenges and what do you propose could be some of the fixes that perhaps the legislature can do to facilitate with DCA? Because in everything that you do, I think what I would want most is to enable you to accomplish what you want to do, because no doubt every single one that I can see here has that heart, has that passion, and is dedicated their professional careers to do all that. I know, Sherry, I remember you way back, your hard work, but we also understand, looking at the management audit, that one of the challenges with having such a small staff is you're multitasking to the point where there's no segregation of duties, so that one function sometimes is not done as efficiently as it can be, and there's no checks and balances to ensure that it's correct, and that, you know what I mean, when you're the shoemaker and the repairman and the person selling it and the person collecting the cash and the person, it's crazy, and I feel for you. So in looking at the reorganization, we know now that Chamorro Village has been assigned to GIDA. We know that in a lot of the involvement of GIDA and every other entity, it's cost you a lot of money. So what was contemplated in the reorganization maybe hasn't worked. What are your thoughts on that? Because I think for me, it's not so much that you don't have the right minds in place. Sometimes you need the right organization with the right minds, right? But you need both. But can you just comment on that, Mr. Sablan, if you will?
In regards to the transition, we've always, or I've always been a proponent in making sure that our staff is considered first. In particular, the Chamorro Village staff, who work very hard in making Chamorro Village, in promoting culture and maintaining operations. And GIDA understood that as well. When in our initial discussions, we just wanted to make sure that if GIDA takes the staff over, that at least the classified personnel would have the option to either continue on or move on to another agency. And that was our main, my main concern, making sure that the staff is protected. If I may ask, we have the Chamorro Village manager here, and he can probably explain to you a little bit more in his feelings, if that's okay with you, Senor Jeff San Nicolas, if that's okay with you, Senator.
Half a day. Well, the transition from DCA to GITA, obviously it's always a kind of like there's concerns, you know, especially for classified employees like myself and including myself. I have 5 other employees. So obviously, that's been our main concern. But the discussions that we've been having between DCA and GITA has kind of assured us that I know that there's some internal items that they're still working out with DOA, BBMR. We're just kind of waiting to hear back to see how we can resolve those concerns to really determine whether we will be staying or moving on. Either way, regarding any changes, we're just going about our day-to-day work that just needs to, that we need to continue. So at this time, like mentioned earlier, we are still taking our orders through DCA. But of course, we are working with GITA and seeing that they have certain resources and reaches that can assist us with the marketing of the Chamorro Village and other aspects in promoting additional activities. Those are things that we look forward to. So yeah, we're just excited in the sense that what changes and maybe what possibilities we can bring to the village.
Because the concern is always if we've merged quite a few divisions into the purview of one. And it's the same sort of discussion whenever we deal with an agency, for example, like DPW, that has so many functions that you often wonder, are they better off being one agency or 5 agencies, right? And it's similar to DCA because you've got different mandates with the library system, with the public PBS system, your partnerships with Department of Education and GOG and GCC, and promoting your development of resource material. I mean, there's quite a lot of different disciplines, and most importantly now, the crown jewel of our island, our museum, which is a significant driver of all the things that your agency wants to accomplish. So I know that it's nobody's place to second guess an executive order or a reorganization, and I certainly don't expect you to speak in contrast to what our governor should desire. But in terms of the legislature and how we can facilitate your mandate, we certainly have. I do, and I know many of my colleagues do. We certainly have the best interest of the department and the success of the department in mind, particularly because our language is dying and will die unless we're successful in all the things that we set out to do. And I just want to commend you and just let you know that I support you. And but if there are ways that the mechanism needs to be improved in terms of the organization, I believe that's a discussion that we certainly need to have, because right now it looks like it's maybe not gelled, and it's just not operating, I think, as efficiently as you'd like it to. So, Sizus Masi.
Sizus Masi, Senator Mary.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and Sizus Masi, everybody, for being here and for participating in putting this budget together for us to review. I wanted to just piggyback off of Senator Torres' comments about the Chamorro language and how important it is for all of us to make sure that we're doing our best to protect and perpetuate it. I did find in Schedule B of the contractual section of your of the budget, there's $25,000 proposed for a tomorrow translation consultant. In FY 2017, we authorized $3,200 for this consultant fee, and now it's increased to $25,000. So I just wanted to ask about the increase, and also ask if other agencies could use this consultant to maybe help to translate certain things into Chamorro for use across the government. How can we access this?
Well, we've helped a lot of agencies when they request for Chamorro translations, and of course a lot of us do this. I happen to take it out of my own pocket because we don't have money to fund translators. I've done that last year, but we were able to service other agencies when they need to, and that's so important for us to do this as mandated at Chamorro Affairs. So I was talking to Sherry that we must have some fund to hire translators to service other agencies, to connect with as well as private people, businesses that want our services. We can generate revenue that way as well. But normally, our other most of this funding is now would go to agencies that require our services.
Okay, so Masi, I know that others have asked questions about the transfer of responsibilities for running the Chamorro Village from DCA to GITA. And I had several inquiries about the staff that was detailed. I had written to the Attorney General just to make sure that we were clear about how that staff, how those staffing patterns would go, who they would be answerable to, and also in terms of their benefits, their retirement benefits, and those things. I wanted to make sure that those our staff are taken care of. And I also, as oversight of GITA, I'm just concerned. I want to make sure, is there anything that my committee should be aware of in this transition? I wanted to ask how the transition's going. So if you could give us an additional update.
As far as the transition, we've done all our part as Department of Chamorro Affairs. Where it lays right now is in the hands of GITA and DOA, and of course the front office or the legal entity of government, and how to make this thing work. Again, DCA is protecting its personnel, its classified personnel. And we just want to make sure that they have the opportunity and the option, should it happen, that our staff would have the option to move to another agency if possible, and or laterally move somewhere else, and then they're protected. GITA is a great partner. They respected DCA's and understood the challenges that they are having regarding the personnel. So I mentioned, and through DOA's advice, that you cannot directly tell a DCA staff to implement the things, their plans. You would have to go directly to DCA president and let them handle it, discuss it with their DCA Chamorro Village personnel, and then we'll implement their plans to enhance the business acumen of Chamorro Village.
Well, I certainly look forward to working collaboratively with the Vice Speaker as the Oversight Chair of DCA to just ensure that and provide the proper support and oversight for success of this transition. And we just want to make sure that you guys are off to on the right foot.
Sejus Masi. Right now, actually, Gita hadn't, proposed perhaps a partnership, and maybe that might be a good way to do it, where we could contract their services and keep everything intact. If should the transition, there's another way to resolve the transition issue. So that's one way that we can be all talking and make things work for the community, for our island, and for the preservation of our culture as well. I told them they're great business people. They promote and advertise. We're the cultural people here. We protect the culture in Chamorro Village. So,
Sejus Masi.
thank you.
My last question to you. In 21 DCA, Chapter 79 on the restoration of Hagatnya, in subsection 79304, it requires approval by the governor and the Guam legislature. And then it also mentions my role. The legislative secretary may request that the authorities submit all or part of any public hearings on the plan. And so I'll be reaching out, my office will be reaching out to you and to make sure that we can have additional copies of that, and if any of the other committee members want to review that, I would appreciate that.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Sejus Masi. Thank you.
Mr. President, how to phrase this, but it would seem to me that the Department of Chamorro Affairs, with $3.1 million in appropriations, could or should already have someone who speaks Chamorro well enough and can translate without having to contract that out. Of all places, to not have
Ungan. Lo Megais tanay no kisinya zo papi so grat na maisa. Kwana Brian na gwawa na ino umaatan sa likod ninga zo be translated. It leaves me only be the one. And normally, actually, our predecessors, he had was able to translate himself. Sinya komentos na sa Chamorro. Lo magait no uno na no gi oficina no doko no matotoso Guam. Si este nuevo administrative officer. Atunga fit no Chamorro comprendía. Ya sinya komentos no Chamorro pago mahal. Pues no Mungkin magait ito na in tapaisin hamzo kusinya na juda hamzo na iyam unu geti para I kultura na banda ni sinya komentos ami sinya ham no ta van hire ni agoftungo no Chamorro ta translada za sinya lokuin na juda I commission fino Chamorro angwa no más necesita. Pues, señor, una magait na kalan gawa no paugo na tempo no matitendis ti lo guaha lo pisya no utotsogi po atani ko PBS ani kaha ani I system and library Chamorro Village, the Guam Museum, bula na mapapaisano pabi attended to siya sa pistatsagaw. Kasi ito na manggagaw Guam no uno Kusina Manhayra Muno, and Ocho Kogwasalapi, Pray Pomalo and Skosu, Tinayam Hafa, Sitan Mami.
It would seem if you allow the commission to have space in the office there, you would have 5 or 6 expert speakers that you wouldn't need to.
That's true. Lo Taza no the cantina of Ratagi of Sin and Mommy. Todo estaman manakupa. Lo Gua Unu na Kwatu or Gi Tomoro village. Zabunito como Zugatu, Loque na Gaigi e Commission za Anu. I think that is a better place for them to be over there.
I mean, I
and we can
understand
support
because
that, yeah.
when I was in the commission for the water reparations, we had our office over there. I
Sure.
mean, it could be.
Yes.
But I'm just saying, for the operations that you have, maybe the commission should be the one that's housed there, and HRRA can go to Chamorro Village instead. It's one person. And you have a whole commission of expert speakers that could be used by the department for your main mission.
Okay. Yes.
And now that we have the museum up and the additional rooms that are there, maybe the museum in the Terlahi building isn't necessary and can be turned into office spaces. And the rooms in the back at the museum could be turned into the gallery for your rotating exhibits.
I mean, the Guam Council of the Arts and Humanities. We're working on that. Again, we've been, talking with our operator to get CAHA to come in and be permanentized at the Guam Museum. But again, our main focus right now is the permanent exhibit. But we have CAHA to be over at the museum sometime in the future. At this time, we're not sure at what point. However, if that happens, then yes, there are a lot of space there that's available that we can probably put e-commission tomorrow. But I need to just take heed again. Is Commission Fino Chamorro a separate agency or on its own? And if so, are they using the DCA staff? Are they delegating them to do this? We would have almost the same situation as Gita telling the Chamorro village which personnel, and DOA is against all that. That would create some issues as far as the classified personnel. So we need to find a way to work that out, because we have very, I mean, if we can work that out, that's fine. I'm also concerned about the archival area. I have the legislative people calling me up and say, hey, I got 100 boxes. Where can we put these historical documents? I don't have space. And if I can get funded for that, at least for a space, and maybe we can have a cultura section, language and culture, handle that also as well, doing multiple tasking. We could make sure that historical documents from all agencies, that's really important for our future generation, is also taken good care of. But right now, I don't have space for that. So just two things to be take heed is that the Commission Fino Chamorro, if they're separate, And if they have the authority to go and delegate something to our DCA staff, it might create some issue as far as the personnel. So
I don't know. I didn't
Yeah.
make the appointments. I know we passed
I
the
understand.
legislation and the governor made the appointments.
I understand.
Uh,
But DOA
if-
has already emphasized that that's if they're paid off from DCA budget, the personnel, then only the president has the authority to take action on that.
No, I agree, and they're asking for $500,000.
So I'm willing to find a place for them at Chamorro Village that I know they would be very happy with, and with our support, we can give them support staff, and make it work.
When you submitted when BBMR submitted the budget request, at least the way that it was sent to us, the oversight chair wants to know why CAHA wasn't included in the.
HRA was included pursuant to that reorganization advisory,
Yes.
but that also says that CAHA and PBS would be under DCA.
That's correct.
I'm just curious why they were separated in the budget when HRA was not separated.
PBS and CAHA are also federally funded as well, and so they have their own boards, and so is the library as well. They have federal funding, or half of their funding comes from federal government. So their budget is separate, and we didn't include them with us.
There isn't any further questions needed that you need to answer. I know that there are members of the commission that are here, but they're not properly before this committee, so we'll discuss that and schedule a different hearing if that's necessary. The same thing we'll have to do with the other agencies. All right. This budget hearing is now recessed until 12.
Mr. Speaker, can I just add one more, just as a future notation? The military programmatic agreement of 2011 or 2014 had promised to build us a museum and a cultural repository as well. I just want to make sure that the Department of Chamorro Affairs is involved in this statement that they said they were going to do.
I believe they're building a repository, and you may need to get a little more vocal because I'm hearing it's going someplace else.
That's fine. We understand that they're moving into the University of Guam, but we want to make sure that, and it's mandated that that DCA is the cultural repository stewards for artifacts, and if we're not involved in that, well, I just want to make sure that the legislature is aware.
I'm sure
of
your
that.
oversight chair will take care of that. With that, we're recessed until 2 o'clock this afternoon for the Guam Visitors Bureau.
Susmasi.